This episode of the Quantum Space Innovating Trust podcast is brought to you in association with Vibu Systems, pioneers in software protection, licensing, and long-term digital trust. Quantum computing is no longer theoretical, and it poses a fundamental challenge to today's cryptography. Methods like RSA and ECC will not survive the quantum era. With its next code meter generation, Vibu Systems is already preparing a smooth, compatible transition to post-quantum ready security across hardware, software, and cloud licensing. Discover how CodeMeter is being engineered for the post-quantum future and why preparing early is the only safe strategy. Visit vibu.com/PQC today.
Over the first half of 2026, the technology industry has been flooded with headlines about artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cybersecurity, digital identity, automation, sovereignty, and, of course, regulation. Now, most of those conversations have been treated as separate stories, separate industries, separate technology, separate futures. But beneath the surface, something much larger has been happening. The systems themselves have started to connect. Throughout Season 2 of the Quantum Space Innovating Trust, we've explored those shifts from multiple directions: sovereign AI, operational resilience, observability as evidence, digital identity infrastructure, hybrid systems, post-quantum cryptography, the readiness illusion, and machine verifiable trust. Now, individually, they of course look like separate discussions, but taken together, they increasingly describe the same structural transition. So for this final episode of Season 2, we wanted to do something slightly different. Rather than focus on a single technology or a single news story, we wanted to step back and examine the deeper infrastructure patterns emerging underneath the first half of 2026. To help unpack that bigger picture, Maya Hartman and James Calloway returned to the podcast to explore the convergence now taking place between AI, cybersecurity, observability, identity, operational resilience, and, of course, quantum infrastructure. Their discussion examines why artificial intelligence is becoming operational infrastructure, why cybersecurity is shifting from prevention to survivability, why observability is evolving into an evidence layer, and why quantum computing is increasingly moving from theoretical discussion into strategic planning. But most importantly, they explore the emergence of what the quantum space increasingly describes as the operational trust stack. Because the real story of 2026 may not be about individual technologies at all. It may be about what's happening when the systems underneath them begin interacting operationally, continuously, and at machine scale. Understand this: the systems are moving. And the organizations that understand this convergence early may ultimately define the next phase of digital infrastructure itself. So Maya, James, over to you.
Right now, the entire public conversation is like completely distracted by generative AI chatbots and, speculative quantum hype.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Right. I mean, every headline is about the newest prompt interface or some futuristic lab experiment. But if you look behind closed doors at the enterprise level, there's this massive silent convergence that is fundamentally altering digital infrastructure.
It really is. The isolated technologies we've been tracking for years are suddenly, they're just slamming together into these interconnected operational layers.
Exactly. And that is why we're here. Welcome to the deep dive. Today's mission is explicitly designed for you, the decision maker, the senior business leader trying to navigate the honestly overwhelming technological noise of 2026.
Yeah, it's a lot to sort through right
It
there.
really is. So we're looking at a stack of executive briefings and master narrative documents from the quantum space, and this covers the first half of the year. Okay, let's unpack this. How should we be framing this great convergence that the briefings emphasize so heavily?
Well, the most critical finding in these documents is what they call the collapse of isolated technology narratives.
Okay, the collapse of narratives.
Right. For the last decade, business leaders treated tech departments like entirely separate, sovereign nations.
Oh, for sure. Silos everywhere.
Exactly. AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity, digital identity, observability, they all possessed independent budgets, isolated strategic goals, separate conferences.
Totally different worlds.
But the first half of 2026 provided undeniable proof that the borders between these departments they've permanently dissolved.
Permanently.
Yeah. You simply cannot formulate a strategy for the future without understanding that upgrading one of these domains now mechanically requires upgrading all of them.
And the documents illustrate that structural shift so vividly with artificial intelligence. I mean, the general public still views AI as a discrete tool, right? You log into a portal, you ask it to write an email or generate some synthetic media.
It's like a standalone app.
Yeah, exactly. But the operational reality is that AI has transitioned into a core infrastructure layer. It's no longer just generating content. It is embedded directly into security operations.
It's orchestrating machine-machine coordination.
Yes. And autonomously managing software pipelines.
And when an AI model transitions from a passive tool into an active orchestrator, one that is, autonomously spinning up servers or routing financial transactions, the entire risk profile of an organization changes completely.
Because it's acting on its own.
Exactly. The immediate operational question ceases to be about the quality of the AI's output, and it shifts entirely to authorization.
Right, like who said you could do that?
Exactly. How does the network definitively prove that a specific autonomous agent has the authority to, say, alter a supply chain route?
Which is a huge deal.
It is, and that mechanical requirement is what violently pulls digital identity into the convergence.
Which fundamentally changes the definition of digital identity. I mean, in the past, identity was basically a user interface hurdle, right?
Yeah, logging into a mobile banking app, unlocking a device with your face.
Right. But the briefings from the quantum space, they detail this massive pivot toward geopolitical sovereign infrastructure. We are looking at the rollout of the EUDI wallet in Europe and all those gov.uk discussions.
Which are major shifts.
Huge. These initiatives aren't just about, putting a digital driver's license on a smartphone. They are creating cryptographic, machine-verifiable infrastructure.
So when an AI agent attempts to execute a trade, the system doesn't just ask for a basic password anymore.
No, not at all. It requires a sovereign-backed cryptographic proof of participation.
And that cryptographic proof, it solves the authorization problem, but it creates this massive visibility gap.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. If machines are acting autonomously at microsecond speeds, and they're using cryptographic wallets to authorize transactions, human IT monitoring becomes completely obsolete.
Oh, because it's too fast for a human to track on a screen.
Exactly. Looking at a dashboard to see if a server is up or down is totally useless when millions of verified machine transactions are occurring invisibly in the background.
Right.
And this forces the evolution of observability. It's moving from basic IT monitoring to the generation of absolute, legally binding operational evidence.
Telemetry truth.
Yes.
The system needs continuous machine-scale evidence of exactly what happened, the precise microsecond it occurred, and the specific sovereign identity that authorized it.
It's a fundamental rewrite of how we track operations.
It really is. Think of this convergence not like upgrading software, but like a massive shift in urban infrastructure. In early city planning, engineers treated the water system, the roads, and the power grid as totally separate engineering projects.
Yeah, they had nothing to do with each other.
Exactly. But today, we are building highly integrated smart infrastructure where the biological nervous system of the city dictates everything.
So they're all talking to each other.
Yeah. The roads are embedded with sensors that dynamically route autonomous vehicles, and that routing data is fed instantly into the power grid to adjust energy loads in real time. You literally cannot alter the traffic patterns without fundamentally impacting the electrical draw.
It's a great analogy.
Thanks. So for you, the listener, the takeaway here is stark. The future competitive landscape won't be won by the company with the smartest standalone AI model. It will be dominated by the organization with the most operationally trustworthy, interconnected infrastructure.
Because capability is no longer the primary differentiator.
Right.
Operational trustworthiness is the new baseline. I mean, can your interconnected systems explain themselves mechanically? Can they continuously prove their own integrity under real operational stress?
Which is a tall order.
It is. And if business leaders need a mental model to organize this interconnected nervous system, the briefings introduce a highly specific, overarching framework called the trust stack.
The trust stack. And the documents are incredibly aggressive in stating this is not, a corporate buzzword or marketing veneer.
No, not at all.
It is a strict, measurable, operational architecture. Let's walk through the mechanics of how these layers actually interact, because the causality is fascinating.
Let's do it.
It starts with identity, which determines participation.
Right.
That identity relies on cryptography, which determines integrity.
Because without integrity, identity means nothing.
Exactly. But integrity without proof is useless, so observability steps in to determine evidence.
And building on that foundation, once you have verifiable evidence, you apply AI. And AI determines operational scale.
Which speeds everything up.
It massively accelerates the infrastructure. But that introduces immense risk, which requires resilience. And resilience determines survivability.
Got it.
Then, managing that survivability at such a massive scale demands governance, which determines accountability.
Right.
And finally, the entire stack is wrapped in sovereignty, which determines ultimate control over the underlying data and the hardware.
So every single layer is inextricably linked to the one above and below it.
Completely dependent on each other.
And the fundamental paradigm shift holding the entire trust stack together is this move from periodic trust to continuous trust. I mean, historically, digital trust was a snapshot in time, right?
Yeah, an annual checkup.
Exactly. A company would conduct an annual security audit, check the compliance boxes, file a paper document, and basically declare their systems trusted for the next 12 months.
Which seems almost quaint now.
Right. Now, because AI is orchestrating millions of decisions across hybrid cloud environments, trust requires continuous machine-verifiable validation at the execution level of every single transaction.
Every microsecond.
So what does this all mean? I have to push back on the practical reality of continuous trust.
Okay, let's hear it.
We're moving from a periodic audit model to a system where the digital infrastructure is constantly interrogating its own integrity every single millisecond. Doesn't that immense volume of telemetry create a massive vulnerability if the observability layer, the evidence layer, isn't fully mature?
That's the core issue, yes.
I mean, you are generating a literal ocean of data points, and more data doesn't automatically equal more truth.
What's fascinating here is the sources explicitly call out that exact contradiction. Organizations are currently over-indexing on visibility while under-indexing on interpretation.
Ah, okay.
They're generating petabytes of telemetry through continuous monitoring, but they lack the coherent evidence frameworks to parse it operationally.
So they can see it, but they don't know what it means.
Exactly. The volume of visibility is vastly exceeding their accountability structures. Trust is becoming operationalized faster than organizations can actually govern it.
Which creates an incredibly fragile environment. Let's zoom in on the specific layers of the trust stack where that fragility is most pronounced. The scale layer, driven by AI, and the integrity layer, driven by cryptography.
This is where the two biggest buzzwords collide.
Exactly. Exploring these layers forces us to address the most misunderstood convergence in modern technology right now. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you read the mainstream headlines, the narrative is that quantum computing is currently supercharging AI.
Yeah, the idea of magic, quantum-enhanced AI models operating in secret labs.
Right. But the master narrative documents reveal the reality is the exact inverse. Classical AI is currently being used as the vital scaffolding to fix broken quantum hardware.
The gap between the public narrative and the engineering reality is just staggering. Quantum processors are inherently aggressively noisy.
Right, they're unstable.
Very. The central physical challenge of quantum computing is maintaining a qubit's its coherence long enough to actually complete a calculation before environmental interference collapses it.
Just normal heat or vibration messes them up.
Exactly. So right now, classical machine learning models are being deployed dynamically to predict that noise and apply error-correcting gates in real time.
Wait, really?
Yeah. We are using classical AI to stabilize noisy qubits. And this is happening in production today at facilities run by IBM, Google, and Quantinuum.
Wow. Breaking down that infrastructure gap mechanically is just crucial for a business leader trying to allocate R&D budgets. Currently, the most advanced quantum processors operate with anywhere from 65 to over 1,000 physical qubits, and their coherence times are measured in fractions of a millisecond.
It's incredibly brief.
Right. But the fault-tolerant, industry-disrupting AI workloads the public imagines require logical qubits.
And that distinction between physical and logical qubits dictates the entire timeline of the industry. Because a physical qubit is incredibly error-prone, you have to algorithmically group hundreds or even thousands of physical qubits together to act as a single, stable, error-corrected logical qubit.
Thousands of them just to make one good one.
Exactly. To run sustained, complex AI inference on a quantum system, you need millions of high-quality physical qubits to generate enough logical qubits to drive error rates below 1 in a million per gate operation.
Million.
Yes. The raw arithmetic of the hardware simply does not support general-purpose use yet.
So the obvious question for you listening is, how do you form an actionable strategy when the hardware is still scaling? The briefings advise explicitly against waiting for a universal, plug-and-play quantum mainframe.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Right. Instead, executives need to map their current classical AI workloads against future quantum advantages by looking for specific computational characteristics. You aren't looking to port your email servers. You are looking for problems involving massive combinatorial search spaces, intricate molecular simulation, or probabilistic inference at immense scale.
Because the convergence will be highly targeted. The documents outline specific domains converging early that leaders should map today.
Like what?
Drug discovery is at the forefront. Classical computers can only approximate complex molecular interactions, which requires massive trial and error.
Right.
But quantum systems, operating on the same principles of quantum mechanics as the molecules themselves, can theoretically model those interactions exactly.
That's incredible. What else?
Financial optimization is another, specifically portfolio construction and risk modeling across impossibly vast parameter spaces. And supply chain logistics, where calculating the absolute optimal routing for thousands of variables simultaneously creates a combinatorial explosion that just chokes classical GPUs.
But if true fault tolerance for those specific applications is still realistically 3 to 7 years away, why shouldn't an executive just pause? I mean, why burn capital on quantum readiness now instead of waiting for the technology to become an off-the-shelf commodity?
Because the transition architecture will not be a sudden rip-and-replace event.
Okay.
No organization is going to decommission their existing data centers to install a standalone quantum computer. The future of enterprise compute is a highly heterogeneous hybrid architecture.
A mix of everything.
Exactly. You will have classical CPUs handling sequential logic, GPUs handling heavy AI training, specialized TPUs for rapid inference, and quantum processing units, QPUs, acting as co-processors dedicated exclusively to highly specific optimization bottlenecks.
And they all operate seamlessly within a single unified cloud environment.
Exactly.
So the competitive advantage goes to the organization that understands how to route the workload to the right processor.
Precisely. If you use cloud-based pilot infrastructure today, platforms like AWS Bracket or Azure Quantum 2 run structured experiments, you are building the institutional muscle memory for hybrid integration.
You're learning the plumbing.
Right. So by the time the fault-tolerant hardware matures, your quantum integration is a simple additive upgrade rather than a catastrophic ground-up redesign of your data architecture.
That perfectly frames the tension of timelines we are seeing across the trust stack. We just outlined a very deliberate, slow-burn, strategic timeline for quantum integration. But the briefings sharply contrast that multi-year horizon with the visceral, immediate operational timeline of cybersecurity.
Yeah, they're on completely different schedules.
Navigating these conflicting timelines is the core challenge for any executive allocating resources this year.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the dichotomy is severe. You have long-term quantum mapping on one side and the daily existential crisis of cyber operations on the other. And the documents from the quantum space highlight a terrifying systemic vulnerability they call the readiness illusion.
Ah, the readiness illusion. It's a brilliant distillation of the problem. It describes an organization that is highly compliant on paper, but operationally fragile in practice.
They look great in an audit.
Right. They have perfectly formatted binders full of compliance documents. They technically meet the requirements of European cyber directives like NIS2, and their governance policies are fully signed off by the board. But the moment the network faces actual operational friction, a ransomware detonation, a third-party API compromise, a massive cloud outage, the entire system collapses because the compliance didn't translate to real-time machine telemetry.
The first half of 2026 proved that the era of prevention as a primary strategy is dead.
Completely dead.
The entire narrative of cybersecurity has definitively shifted to survivability. Organizations historically operated under the assumption that they could build a perimeter secure enough to keep adversaries out.
Like a moat around a castle.
Right. But that perimeter has evaporated. Autonomous threat actors, accelerated by the exact same AI infrastructure we discussed earlier, are operating at a scale that guarantees persistent internal network breaches.
It's the difference between relying entirely on a reinforced steel door to protect a submarine versus designing the submarine with dozens of internal watertight bulkheads.
That's a perfect analogy.
The old model of cyber defense assumed the outer hull would hold. The new model of operational resilience assumes the hull will be breached. The question isn't if the water gets in. The question is whether your internal observability layer instantly detects the anomaly, and whether your automated bulkheads seal fast enough to prevent the entire vessel from sinking.
Because survivability relies entirely on that internal evidence layer. It is no longer about stopping the initial intrusion. It's about whether your telemetry provides immediate operational truth.
Can you see the leak the second it happens?
Exactly. Can your systems definitively prove what was compromised? Automatically isolate the corrupted identity and orchestrate a recovery without triggering a systemic network collapse? Cyber resilience demands continuous, verifiable evidence today.
Balancing these two operational realities is the mandate for business leaders. You have to manage these timelines simultaneously without letting one cannibalize the other. You must actively enforce the evidence layer for immediate cyber survivability today, while meticulously laying the hybrid integration layer for quantum advantage tomorrow.
And a critical piece of that tomorrow is talent positioning.
Yes, the people.
This raises an important question about human capital. Organizations that wait for fault-tolerant quantum hardware to arrive before hiring quantum-fluent engineers and upskilling their data science teams will face a paralyzing workforce bottleneck.
Because everyone will be trying to hire them at once.
Right. You cannot build hybrid architectures if your engineering teams do not fundamentally understand quantum algorithmic logic today.
And crucially, you cannot execute either timeline if your organizational chart still reflects the siloed thinking of the past. If your cybersecurity personnel are entirely isolated from your AI orchestration team, and your AI team isn't communicating with the engineers mapping workloads for future quantum coprocessors, your entire trust stack is structurally compromised.
The technology has converged. The teams managing it must converge as well.
The organizations that internalize the structural nature of this convergence are the ones currently dictating the future of digital infrastructure. The leaders who are still waiting for a singular product launch or a magic keynote presentation to solve their tech debt will suddenly discover that the foundational rules of enterprise computing shifted entirely beneath their feet.
It's already happening.
The infrastructure is alive and the systems are moving. That is the definitive signal extracted from the first half of 2026. The borders are gone. Artificial intelligence is core operational infrastructure. Cybersecurity is dynamic, compartmentalized survivability.
Observability is immutable, machine-verifiable evidence.
Yes. And quantum computing has moved out of theoretical physics and into immediate hybrid strategic planning. They are fundamentally locked together inside the operational trust stack.
It completely rewrites how an enterprise establishes and maintains digital trust.
It does. The master narratives show us moving rapidly toward an environment where human assurance is entirely replaced by automated telemetry and AI orchestration. We are building the interconnected nervous system where every layer implicitly relies on the verifiable truth of the layer beneath it. But I want to leave you with a final thought to consider for your own organization's future.
And it's a big one.
As identity, evidence, and incident response become completely automated at machine scale, let me rephrase. As they become completely automated, What happens on the day when two perfectly functioning, machine-verifiable trust systems within your own network fundamentally disagree on what is operationally true?
It's bound to happen.
When the machines hold the cryptographic evidence and that evidence conflicts, who or what breaks the tie?
You've been listening to the final episode of Season 2 of the Quantum Space Innovating Trust. Over the past several months, we've explored quantum computing, operational resilience, digital identity, AI infrastructure, observability, cybersecurity, sovereignty, post-quantum cryptography, and the growing emergence of what we increasingly describe as the operational trust stack. What became increasingly clear throughout this season is that these are no longer isolated technology conversations. The infrastructure layers are beginning to converge. Trust itself is becoming operational, machine verifiable, continuously measured, and increasingly tied to evidence, telemetry, resilience, identity, and governance operating together at scale. The systems are moving. While many of the technologies themselves are still immature, the direction of travel is becoming harder to ignore. So, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Maya Hartman, James Callowan, and Anna Keller for helping bring many of these discussions to life throughout Season 2. Their perspectives, questions, challenges, and narrative contributions have helped shape the broader editorial arc behind this season's conversations. And, of course, thank you to everyone listening, reading, sharing, supporting, and engaging with the quantum space during these first few months of 2026. Our weekly podcast is going to be taking a short summer break over the next few months before returning in September with Season 3. But this is not the end. Keep watching for occasional special episodes, executive briefings, and white paper reports, interviews, and one-off deep dives over the summer as the infrastructure story of 2026 continues to evolve. So until next time, remember, trusted steps, quantum leaps. Thank you.
This episode of the Quantum Space Innovating Trust is supported by Vibu Systems and InnoDays 2026, taking place on the 15th and 16th of July in Karlsruhe, Germany. As software-defined systems become more connected, autonomous, and exposed, organizations are being forced to rethink how they secure software, protect digital assets, and respond to vulnerabilities at scale. InnoDays 2026 brings together industry leaders, cybersecurity specialists, policymakers, and technology innovators to explore the future of software protection, licensing, digital trust, post-quantum readiness, and operational resilience. The event will also feature the roundtable discussion, Beyond the Breach, Responding to Digital Vulnerabilities with Agility, moderated by Steve Atkins, publisher and editor of The Quantum Space. For organizations working across cybersecurity, digital identity, critical infrastructure, software monetization, or post-quantum transition planning, InnoDays 2026 offers a valuable opportunity to hear directly from experts shaping the next generation of trusted systems. InnoDays 2026 takes place on the 15th and 16th of July in Karlsruhe, Germany. Registration and event details are available at vibu.com/inno-days.
This was The Quantum Space, Innovating Trust, produced and edited by Crown Communications.